Well, the long delay is over. The 2018 NFL season's now over, and for the fourth year in a row, I am doing my playoff predictions for YouTube. But of course, I wanted to say how I did last week with the picks, as I went 10-6, as I finished the year with a record of 155, 99, and 2, or a 609 winning percentage, or 60.9%, so not almost 61%. Unfortunately, that's a massive decrease from last year where I had a winning percentage of 62.9, so 2 points off effectively, which definitely isn't good. But hey, a strong end to the season, although I wish I could have done better with the picks. But anyways, it's now time for the playoffs. And unlike the last bunch of years, I'm going to try and make it very short and simple with how the teams got here and how they've played during the years instead. And this year we had 7 different teams make the playoffs from last year. So of course I'll start off with the AFC, the number 1 seed being the Chiefs, as they made the playoffs for the 4th year in a row. They won the AFC West for the 3rd year in a row. They got first round bye for the first time since 2016, and they got home field advantage for the first time since 1997 with the number 1 offense in the league, and up there is probably, I think, the top 5 best offenses of all time, although that terrible defense is holding them back. And they've been really sluggish these last few weeks, so they actually should be a little bit worried going into the playoffs, especially considering their history in the playoffs. And then, of course, right behind them, the defending AFC champion Patriots, as they made the playoffs for the 10th year in a row, won the AFC East for the 10th year in a row, and got first round bye for 9th year in a row. As they also have been struggling too, and how about that, an 11-5 team getting first round bye? It's a rare sight to see that. But of course, they can't ever be underestimated in the playoffs despite their struggles. They are going to be tough to beat. And then, of course, the 3rd seed is the Texans. After a year away, they had a massive turnaround, made the playoffs, and won the AFC South for the first time since 2016. Looking really sharp at that 0-3 start, although they lost a little bit of their swag that they had early in the year when they were on their 9-game winning streak. They are definitely going to be a threat in the playoffs as long as they can get past the Colts. Then you got the scariest team in the AFC side, the Ravens, who finally made the playoffs for the first time since 2014 and won the AFC North for the first time since 2012 with the best defense in the league. And, of course, Lamar Jackson, oh my God, if he can play like the first half against the Browns, I really think the Ravens can go for it for their 3rd title. And then, of course, we get to the wildcard team. Start off with the Chargers, as they made the playoffs for the first time since 2013. And the first time they made it as the Los Angeles Chargers since 1960 when they first joined the league, as the more balanced team in the AFC West. Although they've been really sluggish these last few weeks. And, of course, visiting the Ravens is not going to be easy for them. And one of the best wildcard teams since like the 2016 Raiders in terms of record. And of course, right behind them is the Colts, who got into the playoffs for the first time since 2014, and also started off 1-5. They went 9-1 the rest of the way with a solid offense and defense. They could be a good threat too in the playoffs on the AFC side. Then in the NFC side, it's of course the Saints leading the conference with the playoff appearance in the NFC South for the 2nd year in a row, and they clinched first round bye and home field advantage for the first time since 2009. This is the strongest team in the NFC and probably the NFL too. They have the best point differential, I believe, an elite offense with a really strong defense. They are going to be massive powerhouse in the NFC and easily can make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And then, of course, you got the Rams as the 2nd seed, made the playoffs and won the NFC West for the 2nd year in a row, and they got first round bye for the first time since 2003. They struggled a little bit these last few weeks, but these last 2 wins helped them to get their best record in 17 years and first round bye for the first time in a long time, as they look to try and get their their 2nd Super Bowl. And then right behind them is the Bears, who came out of nowhere and made the playoffs and won the NFC North for the first time since 2010 and finally ending the third longest drought in the league with the Jets after 8 years with one of the best defense in the league, although their offense is a little suspect, though. Not to my surprise. And how about that? 12-4, very impressive record and dominant season they had. And then, of course, another surprise team, the Cowboys. They went 10-6 and they made the playoffs and won the NFC East for the first time since 2016. Also with an elite defense, although that offense, I'm still not fully sold on it. They've been on the roll after that 3-5 sluggish start. Really saved the jobs of many people, especially Jason Garrett for right now. Then, of course, the wild card teams, the Seahawks, made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. They got right back in the mix, although they're not the same team as they were last time they played in the playoffs. They still are a threat, especially with Russell Wilson still in tow in that offense. And, of course, finishing off, the defending champion Eagles just barely snuck into the playoffs for the second year in a row. Got really lucky because the Vikings choked. And, of course, they're trying to defend their title. But, of course, this time around, they're going to have to go the long way and go through on the road against all three other games to make it back to Super Bowl 53. But hey, it's still possible. Okay, now we get to the actual playoff bracket, as it's time for my actual predictions. And of course, this year in the wild card starts off with the Colts at the Texans. In, of course, the first division matchup since the Panthers and Saints game last year. And this is the first time they will play each other in the playoffs. And this could go back or forth either way. Now, of course, funny enough, both games between these two were really close. And funny enough, it was both by 3 points, whoever won the game, and who the away team was, won this game. And the Colts, when they visited the Texans just a few weeks ago, they really put a number on them. They looked pretty damn good against them on the road. And they started the struggle trend for the Texans lately. So the Texans really should not underestimate the Colts here like they did earlier this year. And I think the Colts actually can do it. Go into Houston and beat the Texans. And with that, the Colts would move on to the Chiefs. After that, it's a defensive slugfest as the Seahawks visit the Cowboys in their rematch from Week 3. And the first time they met in the playoffs since their wild card game back in 2006. And of course, like I said, defensive slugfest this will most likely be, and this will most likely come down to Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and the Cowboys offense against Russell Wilson in their rushing game, which, who do you trust more? Also, the Seahawks have a very good record when they visit the Cowboys the last bunch of years. In fact, they haven't lost to them down there since 2011. So yeah, the Seahawks have a very good record the last bunch of years when they visit the Cowboys. And I think that will continue, as I think the Seahawks will beat the Cowboys. And then we get to the Sunday games, which would be the Chargers at the Ravens to start off, as this is a rematch from the last Thursday night game of the season just 2 weeks ago. And of course, this is the first time they will be meeting in the playoffs, which will be exciting, although we all saw what the Ravens did to the Chargers when they visited them. They destroyed them like 20-10, and Phillip Rivers and the Chargers offense has been struggling lately these last few weeks. Man, God, I think Phillip Rivers in these last 3 games, he's thrown 6 interceptions or something like that. He has been very, very off the mark with his throws, and it's really, really getting worrisome. And of course, like I already mentioned, the third time now that we saw the Ravens destroyed the Chargers when they visited them, and now they're hosting them? Unless the Chargers pull off some sort of miracle and massive change in their rematch, or if Lamar Jackson completely folds under the playoff pressure and fumbles away another turnover or something like that, I think the Ravens will probably easily get this game, and I don't think it's going to be close. And hopefully the Ravens will use Lamar Jackson kind of like how they did against the Browns in the second quarter of the game yesterday. And of course, with that, the Ravens will be heading to the Patriots. And then the final wild card game, which is the Eagles at the Bears. The first time they're playing each other since last year, and their first playoff game between each other since their divisional round matchup back in 2001. as the Eagles just barely snuck into the playoffs after going 5-1 the last 6 weeks. The Bears, meanwhile, won 4 in a row, and they look legit scary, right up there with the Ravens by and large. And of course, I heard the good news today that sounds like Nick Foles will actually be starting today, on Sunday, but I really don't think it's going to make a hell of a difference against if it's Nick Foles or whoever else is playing, since Carson Wentz ain't playing. I think the Bears will beat the shit out of the Eagles and dethrone them. The only way that the Eagles could get this victory is if they completely shut down the Bears' offense and have it a low-scoring game. Other than that, no, I don't think they're going to do it. You can't easily beat the Bears' defense in Soldier Field. It is not going to be easy. Bears win it, and with that, they'll be at the Rams, and the Seahawks will head to the Saints. And with that, it's now division round action, as it would start off first with the Colts at the Chiefs. The first time they're playing each other since the middle of the 2016 season. First time they're playing each other in the playoffs since that wild, incredible come-from-behind game the Colts did in the wild card of 2013. And oh boy, this will be one hell of an offensive shootout perhaps, or maybe it'll be a low-scoring defensive struggle perhaps as well, because the Colts defense is pretty good, although it's nowhere near as good as the Ravens defense. And of course the Colts should take notes of how the Ravens almost beat the Chiefs early in the year, because that's how you're going to have to beat the Chiefs. You're going to have to pressure the crap out of Patrick Mahomes now. That's the only way you're going to have any shot to beat them. But are they going to be able to? I don't think they're going to be able to apply consistent pressure as much as like the Ravens would. And I think it will be an offensive shootout. And who do you trust more in an offensive shootout? Andrew Luck or Patrick Mahomes, with all that talent he has around him more at home? I think the Chiefs will get this, and they'll be heading to the AFC Championship for the first time since 1993. After that, it will be the Bears at the Rams, in their rematch from earlier back in December on Sunday night, although that was in Chicago, and the first time they're playing each other in the playoffs since the 1985 NFC Championship game. And how funny, Rams offense against the Bears defense, just like in that game. Although the Rams, good for them, they actually played very good these last 2 weeks, which they needed to have any sort of momentum in the playoffs to secure home first round bye. I don't fully trust them. And they're going to have a lot of struggle against the Bears defense. And the Rams' best hope to win it is consistently apply pressure to Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears' really pedestrian offense. And if they can do that, they can pull it off. But I trust the Bears' defense forcing the Rams' offense to do so many risky and disastrous turnovers that I think the Bears actually could pull it off. Beat the Rams out in LA, and we'll head to the NFC Championship for the first time since 2010. After that, it will be the Ravens at the Patriots, as it's the first time they're playing each other since that Monday night game back in 2016, and their first playoff matchup since their 2014 division round game, which, funny enough, was the last time the Ravens played in the playoffs. Now, the Patriots. I'm telling you this right now. Don't underestimate the Ravens. The Ravens are right back to pretty much near their prime, what they were like back in the early 2000s and 10s effectively. And trust me, when the Ravens visit the Patriots when they're at this high level, they cause them so much fits that I feel confident the Ravens can go into Foxborough and beat the Patriots. They, as a matter of fact, I think have a near winning record when they visit the Patriots this last 10 years. They are very good up there. And the Patriots have struggled when they have a pass rush against Brady, as they always do, and the Ravens will consistently apply the pressure if need be. And, you know what? Other than maybe if Lamar Jackson somehow screws it up, I think the Ravens will do it. I think they will go up to Foxborough and beat the Patriots, and will be headed to the AFC Championship for the first time since 2012. And then the final division round showdown is the Seahawks at the Saints, the first time they play each other since 2016, and their first playoff matchup since the division round game back in 2013, as the Seahawks are going to have a lot of pressure on them going down to the Saints, as the Saints are obviously the best team in the league, but of course the Saints should not underestimate the Seahawks necessarily either. They're definitely pretty good. And you better consistently apply pressure to Russell Wilson because he can do things on the run. He's not someone to be messed with. But in the end, I still think the Saints will hang on, beat the Seahawks with no real effort. And they'll be headed to the NFC Championship for the first time since 2009. So now, here we go. Conference Championships. Starting off with the NFC Championship. Bears at Saints. First time they met since their game back in 2017, and the first time they're playing each other in the playoffs since the 2006 NFC Championship. Now Saints. I know you might laugh at the Bears, how they're terrible offense and such, but remember, you barely beat them last year when you hosted them. You only beat them by 8 points. And guess what? The Bears are even more better than they are now. Yeah, you're better too, but they've gotten much, much better. And you barely beat a not real good team last year. Don't underestimate that elite defense of the Bears have. They have a defense that will fuck you up. You saw what the Cowboys did to you just back earlier this month. They will fuck you up, and if you don't apply the pressure right back to them and make sure not to turn over the ball yourselves when they get to you, the Bears easily could pull that off and make it to the Super Bowl. But I still think the Saints could pull it off, and we'll be heading back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2009. And then finally, it's the AFC Championship with the Ravens at the Chiefs. Their rematch from earlier this month and the first time they're meeting in the playoffs since their 2010 wildcard game in. Oh boy, I so hope to see this matchup of all the matchups possible in the AFC side. The number one offense in the league against the number one defense in the league. Oh boy, that is going to be sick. Especially since we saw what the Ravens did to Patrick Mahomes and that offense. They shut them down by and large. They forced overtime. They applied so much pressure to them that they couldn't really do anything by and large in that game. And this game will be a huge test for Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes too. Who do you trust more in that game? Well, even though Patrick Mahomes and that offense is one of the best offenses in the league, I'm always defense wins championship kind of guy. And after seeing what the Ravens did to the Chiefs early in the year, I think the Ravens will do it again. They will go to Arrowhead and this time beat the Chiefs and will head to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2012. And then it's Super Bowl 53 down in Atlanta. The Ravens and the Saints. And of course, this is a rematch of their Week 7 game, I believe it was, where the Saints won by just 1 point thanks to Justin Tucker missing an extra point. So who knows what could happen, how exciting that game could have been if it went into overtime and such. But of course, we'll never know. Now, of course, it will come down to the Saints offense versus the Ravens defense. I think it will be a wash. I think both will apply their own influences to the game. But it actually might come down to the Saints defense against the Ravens offense, and specifically Lamar Jackson. Because we really cannot use the game they had earlier this year as an indicator of how the Super Bowl would be, mainly because the quarterbacks changed. It's not Joe Flacco now, it's Lamar Jackson. And who knows how he's going to handle the pressure against that Saints defense. And I really don't know who would win this game. So I kind of hope the playoffs will go exactly how I predicted, not only because I want a 100% winning percentage, but so I could see how the Ravens would play in the playoffs. If they use Lamar Jackson right, if he does not turn over the ball, if he could not have so many incompletions and run like crazy like he did against the Browns and got those 2 scores, then I think the Ravens actually can beat the Saints in this case. But if he does not and he shows rookie slumps and such, then no, I think maybe the Saints could possibly pull it off. But in the end, guess we'll have to wait and see. Will it be the Ravens getting their first Super Bowl since 2012 and 3rd overall? Will it be the Saints getting their first Super Bowl since 2009 and 2nd overall? Will it be someone else perhaps? There's 10 other teams, remember? And of course, seeing my history when it comes to the Super Bowl picks, remember I correctly had the Panthers and Broncos in 2015. 2016, I had the Patriots and Cowboys when it ended up being Patriots and Falcons. Last year, I had Patriots and Vikings when it ended up being Patriots and Eagles. So, Saints, you should be a little bit worried since the NFC team I always keep getting wrong. And, of course, the AFC team's been right every year, so that's a good sign for them. But we'll have to wait and see. But right now, I say it'll be the Saints and Ravens in the Super Bowl. Depending on how Lamar Jackson will play is who I think would win the game. Leave your thoughts in the comments unless you're just an angry fanboy and crazy lunatic fans of those teams who just send me insults and death threats like you do every single year I make my picks. Make my picks. Don't bother comment if that's the case. But everyone else, leave your thoughts, and I can't wait to see the playoffs starting on Saturday.